controversy at the Connecticut State Colleges and Universities system. The interim chancellor has resigned after learning he was under investigation.
And the chancellor before that stepped down after an audit found thousands of dollars in questionable spending. The I-team, of course, has been on top of this story from the very beginning and continues to get some answers.
And your consumer investigative reporter Cassidy Williams is joining us to explain. Cassidy.
Well, we first reported Saturday that interim chancellor John Maduka was resigning only days after an investigation was launched. And there are still questions about what this means for the future of CSCU. They once sat side by side at board meetings, and now both have stepped aside amidst controversy. An audit found former Chancellor Terrence Chang spent thousands of dollars on questionable things like food and entertainment. In April of last year, it was announced he would become the special advisor to the Board of Regents. CT State President John Maduka then became interim chancellor in his place. Last week, he was put on administrative leave after a complaint. He then resigned Friday in his resignation letter, writing, quote, "This decision reflects what is right for my family and for me at this time."
What's your reaction to finding out he resigned?
Well, it's shock because this is just seems to be a continuation of a scandal that's been ongoing. And you had previously done great work with the whole thing about former Chancellor Chang. And the whole I-team reporting about that. And now he continues to have this unbelievably well-paid job, which I think is like 8 times the average salary of a public school teacher in Connecticut. And now we're finding that there seems to be a scandal with Maduka.
Because Maduka resigned, he will not keep making his chancellor salary. But State Senator Jeff Gordon says state Republicans will still be asking questions, wanting to know more about this complaint.
It just sends a terrible message. That number one, there seems to be no oversight. Number two, they're leaderless. Even when they have leaders, they seem to be leaderless. So the legislature should know about this in more detail.
The statement from the Board of Regents says they will not comment further because this is a personnel matter. We caught up with Governor Lamont today to ask what happens next.
They're right now working very hard to get an interim commissioner there for the CSU system. I think they're getting pretty close there. That's what's most important to me. The particularities of why the resignation, will let the personnel take care of that themselves.
Now, until an interim chancellor is appointed, General Counsel Karen Bufkin is serving in an acting leadership role for CSCU. Your consumer investigative reporter, Cassidy Williams, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.